Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Sarah. I'm really honored to be with you this morning again, to open this first panel of the second day and to address such an essential subject, artificial intelligence, women and media. To discuss this important topic, I'm really pleased to welcome today three eminent guests this morning. With us, Shanley Clément-McLaren, Gender and Digital Policy Advisor and founder of Stop Fisha, Jessica Shemali, Senior AI Expert at Syrian Analytics, and Kiara Noon, Business and Project Development Lead at Syrian Analytics. Thank you so much for being with us today. It's probably important to start with admitting that the advent and development of AI in the media sphere has been accompanied by both the worst and the best. We could have actually titled this panel that way, I think. As we saw throughout our first day of discussion yesterday, online violence against women journalists is a major occurrence. A lot of panelists mention it all day long. It's true that the more women journalists expose themselves, the more they speak out, especially on sensitive subjects, the more they will be endangered and repressed online. They are increasingly exposed to cybersexism and cyberviolence and being the object of repeated attacks. And with the development of AI, it could just cause even bigger gender-specific effects. What was and still is a space of visibility, a space of publication, of mediatization, which is the heart of the profession of being a journalist, is actually turning against them. The web, the social media, uncontrolled, unmoderated, have become a new arena of high danger, reaching particularly high levels of violence. And in the same movement, the production of fake information, false information, has been so prolific on the web, boosted by AI, to capable of fueling actual conflict, but also triggering new ones. But thankfully, I think AI also offers extraordinary potential for fact-checking, for truth restoration, and can become an invaluable tool for women journalists, as if they can shape it to their advantage and use it to enhance their security and influence in the media sphere. So that's what we will discuss during this panel with our great guests. But before we begin our discussion, I would like to invite you to listen to an important message from Chloé Goupil, who is the Secretary General of the Summit for Action on Artificial Intelligence in France, who could not be with us today but wanted to share her thoughts on the subject. Thank you very much.
National Forum of Women's Voices Without Borders. My name is Chloé Goupil, and I am the General Secretary of the Artificial Intelligence Action Summit. I would like to start by thanking AHJ, Association Aide, Humanitaire et Journalisme, for organizing this forum dedicated to the intersection of women's voices on strategic issues, namely human rights, climate change, and AI. This gathering, organized in partnership with the French Ministry for Europe and Foreign Affairs, serves to remind us of the importance of putting the spotlight on those women who are key players in these different fields. I'm sorry that I am unable to be with you in person, but I wanted to provide you with some observations from Paris, which hosted the AI Action Summit a few weeks ago, and at which France was very committed to ensuring that women's voices would be heard. At the Paris Summit, a dedicated laboratory for women's online rights held its first meeting, which was an important moment at this international gathering. I'll come back to this specific issue presently. Because of its ease of access and application in so many sectors, artificial intelligence now seems to be ubiquitous in our lives and societies. AI thus stands at the heart of public debate, be it through the lens of innovation possibilities in critical fields such as health sector, research, or tailored education, or regarding the measures which are taken to mitigate the potential risks of this technology. Besides the content that AI produces, the question of access to this new strategic tool is also extremely important. On a global level, women still have limited access to training, skill development, and digital infrastructure. According to the World Bank, women are 15% less likely than men to use digital tools. In terms of jobs linked to AI, research and production, only 22% of such positions are held by women. Bearing this in mind, we, the organization team at the Paris AI Action Summit, aim to make gender equality central to the summit, which took place in Paris in February. First of all, the summit organization team itself was led by 3 women: the president of the French Republic's Special Envoy, Anne Bouvreau, the Deputy Secretary General, Morgane Le Poul, and myself. Second, the agenda set for the summit aimed at being generally as inclusive as possible, both in terms of topics discussed and participants invited. As such, for 1 week in Paris, the summit brought together stakeholders from around 100 countries and a wide range of backgrounds: CEOs of small and large companies, heads of states and governments, representatives of civil society, but also researchers and artists, with the aim of opening up the debates on the issues raised by artificial intelligence today and taking concrete actions in 3 areas: giving everyone the means to make the AI revolution their own, fostering the development of sustainable AI, strengthening the international AI governance system to make it more effective and inclusive. That being said, how was gender equality incorporated concretely into the AI Action Summit? Firstly, on an organizational level, we felt it was vital to have a policy of equal representation at the summit in terms of program and invitations. Indeed, women made up 43% of the speakers on the summit's panels in a sector where only 10% of CEOs are women. This commitment was recognized, and the summit was awarded the Gender Equality label by the French Association for Standardization. In terms of the preparatory work, a cross-cutting gender and AI advisory group made up of around 10 women, all of whom are international experts, contributed to all the thematic discussions which prepared the summit. During the summit, a workshop was dedicated to gender equality and human rights and addressed the issue of gender bias in artificial intelligence, particularly in datasets and algorithms, and their impact on inequality, human rights, and democracy in the broadest sense. It brought together a wide range of speakers and experts drawn from the Council of Europe, Morocco, and Iceland, for instance. The summit also provided a forum for the adoption of major commitments on gender equality in AI. For instance, a declaration on the integration of gender equality in AI was adopted by 12 states on behalf of the Global Partnership for Action on Online Gender-Based Harassment and Abuse, in order to give fresh impetus to the promotion of ambitious ideas on gender and digital issues in multilateral institutions. 146 private sector players signed the first international charter for inclusive AI, and a number of companies pledged to use the label Gender Equality European and International Standard for AI to assess their AI inclusion policy. Lastly, at the summit's closing ceremony, more than 60 states and international organizations, including China, India, Brazil, the African Union Commission, and the European Commission, adopted the Declaration of Heads of States and Government on Inclusive and Sustainable AI, which refers to gender equality in AI. In addition, and as mentioned at the beginning of this message, the first event of the Laboratory for Women's Rights Online was held on the sidelines of the summit, underlying France's position in defending the rights of women and girls online at an international level. This lab is an international multi-stakeholder initiative and an outstanding tool for promoting gender equality in this field, and we are glad it was able to gain traction during the summit. The summit also highlighted the issue of gender bias in AI in crisis situations. This was the focus of the event organized with the UNSG's Special Envoy for Yemen. This session served as a reminder of the importance of advancing peace building through technology, but without perpetuating gender bias. The results of the AI Action Summit were very positive, with key deliverables on gender equality in AI, but also on the development of sustainable AI, both in the field of work and regarding the carbon footprint of this technology, which is another issue central to our discussions at the International Forum. By launching these initiatives, a new pathway was created. but there is still a long way to go to make sure AI conforms to our values and norms. This is why public and private players must carry on working together at the international level to create a solid and effective governance structure, ensuring that AI serves the public interest and those humans who use it. Thank you for listening, and I hope your discussions will be both interesting and fruitful.
Yes. So yeah, Chloé Goupil reminded us really important data and also the advancements on the topic and the result of this first summit. Maybe we can have first reaction on this video, and I wanted to start with you, Jessica. You are the senior AI expert, like the scientific expert, right, at Siren Analytics. Maybe to react also on Chloé Goupil, it's probably good to start with talking about what is AI. What are we talking about when we talk about artificial intelligence, and what do we know about it after all? And maybe just after with Kira, your Jessica's colleague, we could also focus right away on the impact of AI on journalism. We understand that it could be for the best and for the worst too. Thank you very much, Jessica.
Yes, of course. So what Chloé said had many interesting information, including on the dire state of representation of women in the AI sector that is revolutionizing all industries. And as well as the efforts that are being done to change that status and which should be pushed to reach a good outcome. I would like to comment maybe on two things before going into what is AI. First, I believe that it's really important, the idea that there are 3 women who organized the summit. This aligns with something called presence politics, where you don't rely on other people designing inclusive programs, but it's very important that you, as a minority, are also represented in decision-making, and this changes everything. And I want to recognize how inspiring yesterday's women speakers were about the everyday battle they fought in order to be represented and in order to contribute and lead their initiatives. I think it's very inspiring what we saw. The second thing, and this drives directly to what is AI, is she mentioned that women are underrepresented in data sets. And you will know how important it is to change that reality, including through journalism, in order to provide to AI the data sets that makes them less biased and discriminative against women. What is AI? AI is not new. It's computer systems that whose purpose is to mimic human intelligence and human behavior. So computer systems that perform tasks that previously were thought were only the ability of humans. Early advanced achievements, like in the 90s, were that AI was a chess program that beat the best human in AI, which is Garry Kasparov. And this was a huge achievement. This type of program was based on rules and plannings. And this is the most that it was able to achieve. The recent advancement in AI is due to another type of approach, is to use data, is to train these computer systems on huge amounts of data, teach them how to recognize patterns in this data, and then mimic them. So predict, do some prediction or smart guessing. And this is what powers all current AI. For example, ChatGPT, you can imagine that as you are writing, there's a system that tries to predict the next word you are going to write. You all experience this as well in Google. When you start searching something, it predicts the next word based on where you are from as well. And when we talk about these patterns, of course, they embed the biases that we have in our data. And we've seen that over and over again. For example, an example from the US is like one example of AI is face recognition systems. When you have surveillance cameras and they want to detect if there's a face or not, and whether this face constitutes a threat to security. It was very well documented in the US that these systems discriminate against Black Americans, African Americans, because the data they were trained on, associates African Americans with more potential of going to prison. So a new person who has nothing to do with that, just because of this feature, the skin color, they would be more likely to be classified as a threat. And I'm sure Shanley will discuss also examples about women. I just want to say about an example why data set discriminates about women. There are studies that show that if we analyze all of European literature and American literature, that if we check what are the adjectives associated with women versus men, the adjectives associated with men are agency, power, many different types of professions, etc. But the adjectives associated with women are housewife, sweetheart, weak, needing protection. So these are the large data sets that our AI is trained on. And this is why it's very important to produce different statistics through producing and giving different examples of what women are.
Thank you very much, Jessica, for this really clarification. I think that we needed to start, and maybe, Kira, you can just say a few words about the impact of AI on journalism. No, we cannot read you. Yeah, I think her mic is not working.
We need someone to switch.
Okay, is it not working?
Can you hear me?
No, we cannot hear her.
Suspense for the answer.
Yes, you see that's what happened with tech that we rely on.
We need the voice of this woman to.
Okay, maybe we can use do we have a mobile mic?
Okay, so this.
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
Here you are.
Okay, so the impact of AI on journalism. So to reflect, firstly, I would also like to follow up with what Jessica was saying.
Can you speak just? Yes, it is. You just need to speak a bit
louder.
Okay, there we go.
Here we go. All right, thank you. So the question is the impact of AI in journalism, which is obviously a huge question. I'd like to follow up with what Jessica was saying. We have to reflect on the role of journalism in society, and it was so clear yesterday how challenging that role is, so thank you all so much for sharing your stories. So the role of journalism on society is that you are responsible for ensuring that information reaches people that around the power structures that are existing, so people, systems, communities. Information is now what is being disrupted by the fourth industrial revolution of AI. So this has impacted three paradigms, really. It's impacted how you work as journalists, it's impacted the ecosystem that you work in, and it's also impacted what you need to be reporting on. So in the first aspect, your workflow has changed. So I'm sure some of you have used ChatGPT in your work, which is understandable. So your whole flow from how you access information, how quickly you can access information, how you analyze that information, how you write stories has been disrupted by AI. And it's important to recognize that. So you now have an opportunity to save time. You have an opportunity to have better analysis, deeper analysis. You have an opportunity to share your stories more widely if you're using AI tools. Now, that's the positive side. Shanley is going to talk about the risks on journalists now with AI, so I won't touch on those. The second is the ecosystem that you exist in has changed. People are putting out faster stories. Content is creating content. ChatGPT is creating content. Where is that content coming from? Are those new stories? Are they reflecting on old stories? It's easier to share images quickly. The whole industry is changing. Every industry is changing, but your industry because of the fact that information is your currency, is probably on the front line of this change. And then the third thing that's changed is the whole world is changing as a result of AI. And this is something that, you know, I know you're facing daily challenges, but this also needs to be like researched and thought about, because your role of journalists is going to be to share that with everybody. You can look at the huge risks. We heard from colleagues in Palestine yesterday. We are all aware that AI is being used as a tool of war, you know, and it needs to be reported on. And then you see that AI is generally disrupting every market. What's going to happen with the labor market? What if AI becomes our new civil servant? Who is designing the values of the new civil servant? What is transparency? What is fairness? How are you building that into the AI models that will be taking over a lot of the roles that are automated, analyzed, used to predict and make better decisions? So generally, how AI is disrupting journalism is a huge question, and I think it's something that you need to reflect on those three different levels.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And Jessica, you wanted to add something, of course? I don't think we can hear you. Yeah.
Now, yes. Okay, I'd like to emphasize 2 points she mentioned about the importance of scrutinizing AI. You need to imagine that AI, or realize that more and more public decisions will be AI-based. So journalists have been for the past, like all their lives, holding politicians and decision makers accountable. Soon, and already it started happening, AI is making these decisions. So I wonder how many of you are using ChatGPT. Can you raise your hand? So today, no, actually, it's maybe not half. How many of you have scrutinized what's under the hood of things like ChatGPT? 1 person, 2, okay, very little. It's very important for journalists, 1, to use AI because, and emphasizing another point Kira said, it will transform labor markets. Some people are saying that AI will replace humans in their job. This is, yeah, I don't believe it, but people who use AI for their job will replace people who do not use. So I want to give 2 encouragements. 1, do use AI. Don't let go of your critical thinking, but do use AI. Second thing, treat AI as a powerful institution that needs to be held accountable itself and those behind it.
Yeah, last word. Yeah, go ahead, of course. It's really important. We're setting the basics.
Yeah, just one more point to add in. We discussed yesterday there's a lot of independent journalists, and this was new for me to understand how the market works, but just to add on to what Jessica was saying, you're going to see a lot of new people coming into journalism because the skills required for journalism, how you write, how you communicate, won't be so important anymore because AI can do that. So what does that mean for how you tell stories, and what does that mean for how you spend your time? You know, as a journalist, where are you going to be putting your time? If I can write into ChatGPT, please write me an article as though it was Roya who wrote it, you know? Anyone can do that now. So there's a lot of things to think about.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for this first really introduction that make us aware of how powerful AI is and the responsibilities we have, even personally, just to make sure like you really raise awareness on this. I think it's so important. How AI can shape ourselves and also the world, after all, and our own perception. How it discriminates too. So that's going to be also really the goal of this panel, is just to share really practical recommendation advice, because we really have we're really lucky to have you and have all this expertise with us this morning. So thank you so much for this first introduction. So moving to you, Shanley Clément McLaren, thank you so much for being with us today. You're a gender and digital policy advisor and the founder of the famous Stop Fisha NGO, and you're also the author, I cannot mention everything, but of the first book, Combattre le sexism, sorry, how to, I don't know how you translated it actually, no, you don't have an English version, right? So how to counter cybersexism. And since you served, I think in February 2025 as the French focal point on women and gender equality for the last Global AI Action Summit, I think you might have some reaction to share with us about Chloé's Goupil message. And Moderator will be really pleased to hear more from you about what you know about cybersexism. Give us a little overview of cyber violence and how does it really affect women's journalists especially, and in a bad way, of course. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. So my name is Shanley, and indeed I am a feminist activist who is dedicated to combating cyber sexism and online violence against women and girls. So we'll talk about cyber sexism later on, but briefly to go back onto the AI Action Summit. So indeed, I worked actually for 1.5 years for the French Ministry for Foreign Affairs, so I had kind of that double hat, actually. And I was highly involved in the AI Action Summit organized in France this year in February. So indeed, I was France's focal point on gender equality and women's rights, and my job, my duty, was to include women in the AI Action Summit and also be sure that conversations, work on AI is not done without women. So I have to say, it wasn't an easy job. It was quite tough, but as you see, Chloé Goupil, what she said, we managed to, I think we succeeded a little bit.
All right, let's see how power is back.
Test.
Yes, it's working.
It's
the power
working.
is back, and the stage and the voice is back to you, Shanley.
Yes. So the AI Action Summit, as I said, was not an easy task, but I think we managed to reach some kind of success, and we managed to include gender equality. And the next summit is actually to take place in Morocco next year, so we'll see what will happen next. Regarding cyber sexism, Chloé Goupil mentioned it, but there was a big event that took place during the AI Action Summit, and which was an international event on cyber sexism and online violence against women and girls, where states gathered, international organizations as well, and civil society to brainstorm on solution on what we can do to combat online violence against women and girls on a transnational perspective, because today cyber violence has no boundaries, it has no limits, there's a lack of regulation, and I truly believe personally, even personally speaking, that international action is key to combat online violence and combat cyber sexism. So to move on to your next question on what is cyber sexism, I'm going to try to keep it as short as possible given the time we have, but to summarize it, cyber sexism is sexism online, sexism in the digital space, and its whole architecture on the online space. So first of all, let's present it as a recipe. Cyber sexism is first of all the online violence that we see online, and more specifically, the online violence against women and girls. Today, data is clear. There are 60% of women in the world who have experienced online violence based on gender, such as cyber harassment, dissemination of intimate content online, dissemination of personal data online, and more. And women are 27 times more likely to be harassed online than men. So the data is very clear. Secondly, in addition to online violence against women and girls, it's the lack of moderation. I think we all know it. Once you report something online, on Facebook, Instagram, or other platforms, moderation is very low, and usually there's not a lot happening and the content remains online even when it's super hateful and super discriminatory. This lack of moderation enables this online violence and therefore enables a space where women and girls are at risk. The third item of what is cyber sexism is the algorithms. So we talked about it a little bit, but the algorithms that can be discriminatory by promoting Western standards. So there's actually been a few studies on this on social media today. We see that Instagram algorithms promote white, women, slim, etc. And algorithms tend to, how can I say this, kill other types of content. So this, of course, is discrimination. And also how there's the question of how algorithms actually promote online hate and online violence against women and girls. So regarding AI, there's the fourth point, it's the lack of women in tech. Yeah. So we can see that, first of all, that tech is designed mostly by men. We know that in AI, there's only 22% of women in AI in the world, which leaves us with 78% of men, dealing with AI. And when it comes to developers, we see that there's only 6%. This has an impact on how technology is being built and how AI is being built. There's biases, of course, on how technologies are designed from the very developers' perspectives, but there's also a lack of safety and measures because we tend to forget how technologies can impact women and girls in very specific ways. Finally, we talked about data sets. It's interesting to look at data sets and the data that is used to train AI technologies, as we see that most of them, of course, sexist and discriminatory. And just maybe to mention one study in the US, so there's been a study that analyzed 133 AI systems, and it actually came out that 44% had important gender bias and 25% gender and racial bias. And maybe I'm just going to speed up a little bit, but there's huge consequences to this in all fields. In the health medical field, we see that women have been not properly diagnosed because of that data sets trained on men, basically. And we were talking about it with some women here yesterday. There's also in the workforce, there's been a huge scandal a few years ago in Amazon in the recruiting scheme that was enabled with AI, where actually it favored men rather than women. And also in the Netherlands, there was a huge, huge scandal also recently with the Dutch childcare benefit system, where actually it discriminated on gender and racial biases. And so what we see today is that online spaces and digital as well are being sometimes trained and designed against women and girls, and that I can say is the cybersexism. And maybe just to speed up a little bit, because I'm taking a little bit of time, when we talk about the online space, my expertise is on the online space, we see that cybersexism is today an issue that is present in the whole world and that impacts our rights directly, but also our societies. And we see it now more than ever. There's a political momentum when we see what's happening in the United States currently with Zuckerberg, which took down all fact-checking mechanisms, but also Elon Musk promoting freedom of speech, but freedom of speech for whom, actually? Because what we see, there's been a growth in online hate, in online violence, and also with the whole Trump and J.D. Vance, politics and agenda on promoting freedom of speech. And in the case of women, we saw the data that we mentioned before, but in the specific case of the Middle East, there's been a study in Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon, Libya, Morocco, Palestine, Tunisia, and Yemen, which showed that 50% of women internet users have expressed feeling unsafe. And in Lebanon, since the COVID-19 crisis, there was a surge in 180% of online violence against women and girls. So this is a global crisis. There are no borders. Yeah. Cyber violence is transnational, and we see today that, for example, victims of intimate content disseminated online face huge consequences, for example, because content spread across borders and in average shared on 42 different platforms. And we're also talking about deepfake pornography as well. And maybe just to wrap up, anyone can be a target, but especially journalists, as you know very well. Online harassment, threats, death threats, disinformation, including gender disinformation, also the dissemination of personal data, personal pictures, deepfakes. And there's a story which I'd really like to mention here, and it's the story of Lebanese journalist Ghada Ouais, who was a main journalist for Al Jazeera, and who was investigating from 2011 on the Syrian war and the killing of her colleague Jamal Khashoggi. And while she was investigating on Saudi Arabia and the UAE, she actually discovered that one day a picture of her was spreaded on the internet with the hashtag Ghada Jacuzzi. And what was the picture? It was a photo of her in a swimsuit that was taken by her husband during vacation, and that was leaked online. But that was personal, that was kept in her phone. And I think you've all heard of the Pegasus scandal. Well, she was a victim of it. And this gendered perspective of the Pegasus scandal and online attacks against journalists seem to be undercovered. And the consequences of this was huge. 40,000 abusive tweets in just hours with AI-powered cyber harassment with bots that just posted content against her, and also loads of threats, etc. And Twitter, of course, ignored all of this. Today, she continues to suffer. And what are consequences of this? They are very holistical, intimate. Of course, your body has been shared online. Social, there's shame. Professional, she has actually decreased her activity as a journalist and in Al Jazeera. She used to be on TV, and she does not go on TV anymore because of what has happened. So this leads to censorship as well. So we can see here that online violence is global, of course. It has very specific regional consequences, and women journalists today stand at the forefront of those challenges.
Yeah.
Thank you, that was a bit long.
No,
Sorry.
no, thank you so much, Shanley. We can see how all the multiple consequences on the woman's life, on the woman profession too. So we'll probably, maybe, I was thinking just go back maybe a bit later about your NGO, why you created it, but also what you offer with it just a little bit after, just to link it with the solution and the tools, if you don't mind. I was just thinking maybe, Kira, that, because we have just seen so much with Shanley about all the bad effects of AI using an extremely harmful way, and this daily life consequences to on women journalists. Maybe we can go a bit on the good side. Let's go back there on AI. What can we expect with it? How can we use it? And especially, why did you decide to create this initiative, Dalil initiative, which is an automatic fact-checking tool based on AI. So you use AI for the best. So maybe you can tell us a bit about this. I think you wanted to share a video, and then how we can really concretely use it, and to share with the audience what we can do with it. And then we'll go back on the cybersexism, how we can counter it again. So we can go on the video. Thank you.
Discerning fact from fiction is harder than ever in today's media landscape. New technologies are enabling bad actors to flood our media environment. Disinformation is increasingly believable, and it's spread at an accelerating pace. Dalil helps people make sense of content in this crowded landscape. Created with EU support, Dalil is an open access platform that uses AI to lighten the load across all stages of the fact-checking process. Its flagship feature is Dalil Check, a discourse analysis tool that flags subjective speech and common rhetorical devices used to mislead or influence people.
Imagine having all the essential tools at your fingertips, seamlessly unified in a one powerful platform. It's the only platform that understands complex web of the Arabic language. Dalil brings fact-checkers together, creating a shared process that empowers everyone.
Public policy decisions, change, reform, governance, cannot happen without proper communication. Misinformation, disinformation can destroy good initiatives. It can destroy peace-building initiatives, human rights-oriented initiatives, initiatives to fight corruption. So this is what Dalil is all about. And we're very happy to develop the synergy with the stakeholders working in the space so that we can continue to innovate together.
Yeah. Kiara need her voice again. I think it's back.
Hello? It's back? Okay. So I don't know, how many of you have heard of Dalil before? No? Okay. So I'm going to start, just before the slides, Diana, I'll just give a bit of a story about Dalil and why we created it. So Jessica and I both work for Siren Analytics. We are essentially a tech for good company. We look at complex problems that society is facing across the social and political spectrum, and we bring AI and research and innovation. We have over 100 AI, computer science, political science, behavioral science. So it's an interesting space where we try and innovate for these problems. So actually, Dalil came about initially because Siren in Lebanon had created the first e-governance platform. We were attempting to fight corruption by making it more transparent, making the workflows online, sharing information on open platforms. And so Siren then became the victim of a targeted disinformation attack. We were told that we had sold data to Germany, we'd done all sorts of things. So this was the first time that Siren was really exposed to what disinformation was and what the impacts could be. So we then had the opportunity to work with the EU and Aide, who are based in Jordan here. I'm sure many of you know Aide, and fact checkers and journalists across 13 countries. And we delved into this topic. We understood it better. We researched, we sat with journalists, we sat with fact checkers, we understood your workflows and where it was taking time and how technology could enable your work. And so that's how Dalil came about. So I can maybe go through in a moment, but I think the first slide, we discussed earlier that one of the biggest problems facing journalists now in communication is information overload. And I think we all feel that every day, actually, these days, because information is just coming so fast. And there's a famous quote by Hannah Arendt that if everybody always lies to you, the consequence is not that you believe the lies, but rather you believe no one believe anything anymore. So this is kind of the space where we created Dalil from. I'm going to run through a number of slides, and I'm going to be going back and forth with Diana quite quickly, but we wanted to show you how the platform works practically and how you could use it. And we've decided to put it on slides because it's a little bit hard for me to be doing it from the seat. So the first thing is that Dalil is available for, and I know the fact-checking space, we've all talked about this, we've reflected on this at work as well, that there's a lot less funding for it, and that everybody needs to be a fact-checker, even people who are receiving content and reading your content should be fact-checking. But Dalil is a space that allows you to do 4 things. It allows you to monitor the news. You have a huge amount of content that you're monitoring as journalists, so it allows you to bring that all into one space. I'll show you that in a moment. It allows you to analyze that. We bring a lot of tools together, to verify it, to analyze it, and then also to publish from Dalil. And you're able to sign up. It's available for free for journalists and fact checkers. We're building it out into a much bigger kind of platform with a suite of tools. And it's constantly being innovated, especially as AI changes so quickly. I'm actually an environmental engineer who works with Siren, and the pace at which AI changes, I can barely keep up with. So, okay, I'll go to the first one. So firstly, what you can do is you can search for something you want, actually, through Dalil. We monitor over 400 news channels. We also monitor Telegram. We used to have Twitter, and then Elon Musk came, and then he charges huge amounts of money for you to have it, so you can have it at a subscription, but unfortunately we can't give it to you for free. So you can search. I'll go to the next one. So here allows you to search for a topic, and it will come back with all of the news articles that we're monitoring. I think there's over 2.4 million articles that have already been analyzed in Dalil. And then if you go to the next one, so what it does, which is interesting, is it groups the content per claims or per stories. So you can click on one of these cards, and it will take you to all of the articles. Now it's available in English and Arabic, but you can then, it allows you to save time. Like, what are people talking about, what's happening in the news today? So you can do this through Discover. When you get to each of the articles, you can use various tools. So you can click straight on that article, and we have AI models that are running in the background that assess the subjectivity of that. They assess whether or not there's propagandistic language in it. Now, an important point is this is not replacing your job. You know, obviously, you have to use your own critical thinking. Jessica highlighted that before. This is a big risk for everybody with AI, that we get a bit lazy in our thinking, but this tool is just supposed to enable your work, to flag things for you, to get your attention and to focus on things. And so then it assesses whether an article is credible or questionable or nonsense, essentially. You can put some of your articles through it as well, which would be interesting. So here you have it available, as I said, in English and Arabic. This is for Telegram. It looks at the messaging platforms as well. Okay, the next one. These are a lot of the tools that you use that are open source. They're here, but also we're working on the Easy OCR, the OCR tool. Jessica was just talking to me about how she was working on it last night on a Saturday night, so there you go, dedicated. So here you can look at the content and you bring it in to verify. As I said before, you can also do it directly from the article, or you could do it from here. So here's image analysis. Here's interesting. So this is text analysis. So in the video, it spoke about Delio Check being one of our tools. So here, we're using AI models that are assessing the bias in propaganda. Okay, again, up to you to confirm this, but it's flagging for you if an article needs to be kind of checked. Then you have AI likelihood tools, and then also tools that are available online, but it saves you time. They're all here in one platform, and you can use them all directly. Analyze This Article is an interesting tool that we've been working on lately. Jessica can maybe go through a little bit more about what the model is assessing, but it looks at logical fallacies. Maybe actually, do you want to step in here and kind of talk about the model?
Yes, of course. So this, you put an URL here. It could be of your own work as well. And what this assesses, it's the methodology of writing and, for example, and the logic of the writing. So sometimes, even your own writing might be judged as not evidence-based, for example, if you use too much of a persuasive language versus facts, etc. So it checks if the article commits to all of the journalistic principles. Sometimes you want to be persuasive. So it's not that this makes a judgment about your writing. As Kira said, AI will never tell you the truth about something. It just categorizes it for you based on a certain methodology for you to then decide what you do about it. So different things that it uses, for example, how much your article is evidence-based or ideological-based or other types of these principles.
So this is interesting. So actually, initially we built Delio with a fund from the EU partnership with Aide and across 13 different countries with users. Since then, we were also at the Paris Peace Forum for, this is where we obviously met IHJ, but we partnered with Les Surligneurs. I don't speak French, so no judgment on how I've said that.
Les Surligneurs.
Thank you.
We
there we go. Yeah.
Because it's immigration.
Okay, so we were in contact with them because what they do, Les Surligneurs, is that they assess articles based on how much it is aligned with international humanitarian law. So this was quite a resource-heavy task for them. So they reached out to us, and we worked with them to do an automated check. So this was our first partnership. We also partnered with another organization called Article 19 in the Western Balkans, and we modified Delio for users in that region. So new languages, understanding where they were monitoring and how they worked as well. So we're continuing to partner with new people in the space. It's a space that's changing so rapidly. You can't build a tool and then think that that's kind of it. So it's evolving as Delio. But I think, yeah, here's a QR code. So you can download Dalio. You can also have a look and see who Siren Analytics is. As Jessica said earlier, it's always important to know who is creating these tools, what is the intent behind these tools, not to use them blindly. And yeah, you can sign up, you can ask us questions, and yeah, this is Dalio.
Thank you so much for sharing this really important tool. And yes, of course, we'll have a time for questions, and I'm sure you do have a lot. So maybe, because we have seen with Dalil what we can do with the support of AI and this really amazing fact-checking system and suite of tools. Actually, it's not only one thing. You just show us a lot of different things. I'm going back to you, Shanley. What tools can be used to combat cybersexism and cyber violence? Because there are also some answers. And then we'll just maybe also be so grateful if you could share your own expertise, some advice and recommendation to women journalists, how to react in case of a cyber attack, what can they do, how to protect yourself, which is also an extreme important subject. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So actually, I've talked a lot about AI and how it's negative and how, you know, it can be used against us, but there are tools, of course, as you mentioned, and when it comes to women's rights online, there are tools, of course, that are enabled by AI, but I can talk about it. So where to start? So first of all, I think when you're a victim of online violence, of cyber attack, there's two actions, two stuff that we can do us collectively, as women as well, but also as journalists. The first thing is to have preventive measures. So prevention before, to prepare for a possible attack. First of all, it's protect your data online. So important because we know how journalists can be victims of dissemination of online personal details. And first of all, that's using different passwords everywhere. And you know, there's like tools that can generate different types of passwords that can actually store them. Then there's the double authentication, I don't know the English word for it, authentication mechanisms on social media. And also another advice is Google yourself regularly. Just put your name on the Google search engine, check what's been said about you in case there's any personal data that is being leaked online. So that's the data protection part. The second part is to encrypt your devices, especially when you're doing investigating journalism, for example. There are tutorials online on how to encrypt your iPhones, your telephones, but also how to encrypt your digital devices, such as your computer, etc. And also, it's useful to use encrypted emails. So here, there's a direct recommendation is Proton email, Proton. Which really works on encryption. That's what I personally use for my emails. Then afterwards, you can encrypt your folders as well. Proton has a kind of drive where you can store your data, your folders, the documents you're working on, and this is encrypted as well. In terms of encrypted conversation, we'll often talk about Telegram, but Telegram is not entirely encrypted, actually. And here I would recommend using Signal instead of Telegram. In terms of cybersecurity and security, never publish your real-time location and beware of stalkers. We do not talk often about it, but stalkers are very present, they're very discreet, and they aim to target women journalists and women activists, and you'd be surprised that some of us actually have stalkers and we don't really know it. In terms of reaction, when you're a victim of online violence, what to do? So I'm going through right now an online attack, for example. The first thing I'm going to do is reach out to one or two persons that I deeply trust, and that will help me and provide help throughout all the period. Then you have to screenshot everything that there is online with the time, the date, and the link. These screenshots are actually proof in case you want to submit a report. Then afterwards, and doing screenshots can be quite a burden, and it can be kind of a mental load. And that's why the one or two person that you trust will help you take screenshot, face the online violence instead of you, and so that you can just step back a little bit and protect yourself while this folder of screenshot is being, complemented. Then you can report to, of course, local authorities, but also to NGOs. And actually, I don't know if you know that, but there's some NGOs that are specialized in online hatred and cyber violence and that have a trusted flagger status. That trusted flagger status is when you have partnerships with social media platforms and enables you to directly communicate the reports you have and for them to take down the content and the accounts in like a couple of hours, and they're highly reactive. And when it comes to trusted flaggers organizations, there are a lot in the EU, and my organization as well is a trusted flagger. My organization, by the way, is Stop Ficha. I have not mentioned it yet now, but Stop Ficha is a feminist organization based in France that acts in France, but also in the EU and internationally, and we support and provide support to victims and survivors of online violence, not only in France, but also from other parts of the world. In addition to reporting, you can block. And finally, if you're a victim of content that has been disseminated of yourself online, and especially an intimate content, there are tools that exist that use AI, and two of them is Disrupt. It's a tool it's a hashing technology, and when you submit your content to that technology, they will take down your content as soon as it is uploaded online. So that's a very, very important tool to keep in mind, and it also works in case of deepfake pornography content that is made of yourself without, of course, your content. In terms of action, I think we will come back to action, what we can collectively do to combat cyber-sexism later on. Okay, great.
No, absolutely. Well, thank you for this really precious advice that you're sharing with us, Shanley. I think it's important to have that in mind and just actually to be aware, to know how to find information, how to react. All these are so precious recommendations because we don't really know what to do and who to trust too. We talked a lot about trust, finding like a trustful, reliable person, and also NGOs. That would be really interesting to share these flagged NGOs that can just be, that we can trust, maybe for like women's journalists in the room. So thank you so much. I think it was really practical, and that's all the goal. It's true that we haven't mentioned yet like the, let's say like the legal tools or like the frame, also because it's not always applicable, probably here in the region, but maybe we'll have a question about that and we can just talk about this later. But yes, maybe let's just move to the next slide, Diane, but it's important to mention, I wanted you to end with this, what type of action we can take also collectively, because everybody is concerned about cyber violence. Thanks. So you wanted to mention.
Right, so this is a petition I launched. I was at the can you hear me well? Yeah, okay. So I was at the United Nations in last November for the Young Activist Summit. So I had the huge chance and privilege, and I don't know if you can see the QR codes, but I had a huge chance of privilege to be a laureate of the Young Activist Summit, organized by UN Geneva alongside 4 other activists from other countries, and where I actually called for more action to combat online misogyny and to hold tech companies accountable. And so by doing so, I allied with activists, human rights defenders, journalists specialized on the issues across the globe, and together we launched this petition, and with the QR code. So if you want to support us, support the action, feel free to Google this online petition. That is to be found on Change, or to scan the QR code right here.
Thank you very much, Shanley. Why it's important to support this action. Like you mentioned earlier too, it's really a transnational phenomenon that we have to deal with. So we need a transnational and international also action, which is what you try to gather to through the world. Maybe we'll just like leave on this page a bit on so that everybody can go on the QR code and just check the petition online. It's probably time just to move on the closing session, but I have a few more questions for all of you before we really want to open the session to the public, because we think that there will be a lot of questions. Just two last questions maybe for you, Jessica and Kira, to close this fascinating debate. AI is really like a moving object, right? It's constantly in the making, it's a fabric. What maybe extraordinary things we could do with it? What can we dream maybe to do for helping the woman journalists or journalism in general? That would be the first question and the dream. And also another important subject, I don't know if you can just maybe develop, but really quickly about it, given AI's growing environmental footprint, what challenges and solutions also you could recommend or think about to have a more responsible and sustainable use of AI? And then I will ask you also the same question after Shanley.
Maybe I can start and then you go. Okay. So what could we dream of in AI for journalists, or just generally for AI? Is an interesting question, and I'd actually love to hear what you guys think as well afterwards in the Q&A. I've spoken to a few of you about this like yesterday. I was going to say over the last few days. It feels like it's been longer than just yesterday. The first thing is, how far are we from me opening a website and it's a chatbot, and I ask that chatbot, tell me what happened in the world today that I should know about? I don't think we're very far from that. That's the first thing. So I think we should recognize that that's coming, okay? The second thing is two things I want to mention. I asked ChatGPT, what is the root collective thought of humans? I was curious to see what ChatGPT thought, and it said, to survive, we must be separate. So it's interesting to see where ChatGPT is already. So I wanted to mention that before we think of dreaming. And then the other thing, which I know is a challenge for all journalists, and it's what you think about every day, is that one person's death, the famous quote, one person's death is a tragedy, 1 million deaths is a statistic. So how could you use AI to better communicate the context, the stories, the realities? We heard yesterday Hadil's example using VR, which I think is amazing. But how can you get across, you know, I come from Australia, and in Australia, most people have no idea what is happening in this part of the world. It's not because they don't care, it's because they wake up, they take their kids to school, they have their jobs, that, you know, they think about those things. So how can your story hit? How can AI be used to help your story hit? So in one way, could you bring in historic context? Could you bring in more stories of people? This is more of a question for you. You know, Jessica told you about what's happening in AI and how it's being used, but the dream could be to answer that question for you. Then generally, we talked about this question internally with our founder, Carol, who was in that video, and both Jessica and I got a bit of a fright, I think, is the best way to say it. But look, the infrastructure now that is available, technology, you have IoT, Internet of Things. So we have software connecting to hardware. You see it across lots of different uses. You have, soon you'll have, well, there is already Edge AI on your phone, so you can have entire models running on your telephone. You have CCTV cameras, you have satellites, you have all of this technology. So she said to us, what if you could have a 24/7 journalist who is working pro-democracy, collecting all of this information, and then sharing it with people as on stories on demand? And so then after she said this, we both thought, okay, that's scary, because, you know, the people who are at the helm of this technology are not always people that we trust. So the question about where we dream AI going is more of a question, and this is where Jessica finds more interesting, so I'll hand it over to her, is where are humans going, you know? Where is our intent behind the use of this technology? And I think that's that's the question that we probably all need to think about a little bit more.
Yeah. and which relates also to the important fact we haven't mentioned, like the tremendous needs of regulation.
Yes.
And to compel our values, but also like human rights and also a certain form of using it and principle.
Actually, I'll just speak on that. I meant to say this before. Another partner from the Paris Peace Forum conducted a global responsible AI index survey. So they assessed 137 countries. They wanted to see where is everybody with AI in respect to human rights. And it was just done, I think, last year for the first time. Now, AI is like, you know, when we talk about AI, we think it's happening fast in other countries. Syria is hosting their AI conference this week. Lebanon has one in July. Jordan had one the region is moving quickly. A lot of countries have AI policies. And so this study looked at how many countries are thinking of how to protect human rights. And it's harrowing, the results, obviously, as you would expect. 6 billion people live in countries where there's no one thinking about it, or there's no government regulation at all. Gender is only 23 countries have even thought about the intersection of gender and AI. So yeah, Lucie, it's a great point. So just to come back, sorry, I went a little bit away from where the dream of AI could be, but yeah, it's important to see where we're at before we leap into the dream.
Thank you. Jessica, you wanted to add?
Yes, so paradoxically maybe, because I'm coined here as the AI expert, I don't dream about AI. For me, I dream about human intelligence. And we were never as challenged as humans to think, what does it mean to be human? As can we in the future fall in love with an AI and the AI fall in love with us? I didn't used to like science fiction, but now I'm actually starting to watch films about science fiction because I feel that we're at the edge. It's like a old French writer, Jules Verne, who wrote about reaching the moon. At his time, it was purely science fiction. We did reach it. So for me, what I dream about is for humans to realize that we don't need all this technology to solve our problems. Humans solve human problems. And I've always thought, is the reason why there's hunger in Africa that there's not enough food in the world? In some parts of the world, there is daily excess food that is enough to end hunger in Africa, but it's being thrown. So I believe that journalism will never stop, because journalism is about fighting for values. And whatever AI becomes strong, activist journalists engage for social causes in order to fight the monopolistic agenda about all these big AI models will remain. Regarding your question about climate change and the carbon footprint, yes. AI has a huge toll on the environment, especially that it is now driven by fierce competition by super billionaires who don't get enough from getting even more money and even more power. So it has two ways mainly that it has a lot of impact on the climate. One is because it's hunger for electricity. There's things called data center, where all this computational and statistic and storage of data is there. And currently in Europe and in the US, the way that they want to get and of course the Gulf countries, put a lot of money to build these data centers. These are hungry for electricity and energy, so automatically it affects CO2 emissions. The other way is that also they need a lot of cooling down because it's so many computation, it heats up very easily. So every prompt, every hello or please or thank you send to ChatGPT, other than it, there's an anecdote that it's costing OpenAI hundreds of millions of dollars, just this prompt. It also consumes half a liter of water. You know what I think? I want to distinguish between ethics and rights. Private sector is always pushing for ethical AI, because ethics is what you do as an agent. You decide to be ethical. But rights are what is enforced by law. And what we should push is for our rights to be withheld through law, not only through principles and ethics. And today, one of the challenges is that the technology, as Kira said, is moving much faster than the regulation or even our ability to understand the consequences. And so we need to be much more proactive, much more fierce and engaged to have AI and the building of AI align with the values of human rights, gender equality, and these things.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, the regulation has to keep up with the speed of the use of AI, and yeah, I will just, and so yeah, and humans need to solve their own problems too, and also the regulation problem, I would say. Yeah, Shanley, just to maybe share like a last word and your own things about the dream, and we'll just close soon.
Okay, so I actually had a question because you actually made me think a lot right now. So can we really build AI models, systems, technologies that are ethical and at the same time on a rights-based approach and taking into consideration the whole environmental impact as well with clean data sets, etc.? That's a real question that I actually have for you guys, and maybe on my perspective to have final words before having a Q&A session is you as journalists have a huge power, huge voice, and you can talk about all these issues, AI for the public interest, but also AI and rights, AI and women, and also the whole digital companies and the cyber sexism as well. Collectively, we can raise awareness on what is going on and the impact on rights, on democracies, and what can we as a society actually do. I actually dream of like alternative social media platforms that are built by women that come from global majority, because what we see today is white, mainly men, white, in the United States, and the impacts we've seen on us right now are not very positive. And I'd say our final message is that there is a political momentum to act because there's an emergency with everything that's going on. And conversation actually yesterday have shown it. Online violence came back in every single panel. And we were talking about Syria, the surge in online hatred, and there's so much to do. And I actually think that international action, solidarity, cooperation is key, but also just as well as local, regional action as well. And there's a political momentum to act and a lot to do, but I think collectively we can find tools and solutions.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's exactly what we were talking about earlier, how journalism could be part of the solution to just like to cover the subject, to share, to just like make the voice louder, basically, and raise awareness more than anything else. Well, thank you so much for your really precious recommendation and advice. I think it's time now just to open the session to the questions. So I don't know if we have the 2 mics. Thank you so much. If you have any question to our free guests, or also to share your own experience, to share also solutions that we are not aware of, obviously, especially locally or in your region or in your country, we will be happy to answer it. Yes, I see 2, 3. Okay. Maybe.
Thank you. Shall I start?
If you can eventually present yourself before I... Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. Good morning. This is Dunia Mardan, academic, researcher, former media program director. And I'm very interested. That was too much knowledge.
Yeah. How even takes a lot of power too.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, we can hear you good, thanks.
Again, thank you very much. That was too much Like, I was thinking that was more than an hour I'm here. Thank you. And I'm very impressed by women leaders in AI, specialized and experts. I was so happy when I heard that the AI summit led by 3 women. I'm very proud of that, and good luck for future. Actually, my question is to Shanley. As a global expert in this field, is there any, in terms of the gender analysis policy, is there any hope that could be globally circulated? If I'm sure that you already started on one, and you have mentioned in your speech about some of the examples, but very gender analysis policy that could be used in journalism, in the field of media and journalism, and that could be circulated globally. And I guess I forgot the other question that was to Jessica. Yeah, I realized that you're very optimistic about the AI and women issues. I'm happy to see that, but don't you think that AI and the algorithm that exists is another reproduction for gender inequality and gender victimization? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your question. Maybe you want to start, Jessica?
Of course.
Thank you.
Yes. I didn't realize I sounded optimistic for me. I mentioned several big risks. For sure, currently AI, because of the leadership that it has, specifically I'm talking about private sector, not about men. For me, like all genders have good and less good people. But currently what's driving AI is profit making. To give insight about what Shanley said about what's being promoted online, they want virality. They are promoting these things because they make more profit, the algorithms, I mean. You spend more time. Things that are controversial are shared more. This is what statistics says. So this is what is being promoted. So for me, it's not necessarily technology itself. Technology has always brought solutions and problems with it. Every time technology was led to a revolution, we had some acquisitions as a society, but it created as well its proper challenges. So AI is one of these big industrial revolutions. And in my opinion, one thing we need to fight is monopoly. For things to be more decentralized. And this aligns with what Shanley said about having other platforms, not only Meta, not only ChatGPT, and I believe in the future, especially as AI becomes more accessible and open sourced, there will be more. There's a bigger hope for more decentralized solutions that work for most people.
Thank you, Jessica. And we need room for hope, right?
Yes.
Shanley.
Thank you for your question. Does it work? Okay, no. It works. Okay, great. No, I can hear it. In terms of like the gender analysis of policies that exist and international standards, etc. Actually, there's a group at UNESCO named Women for Ethical AI, which is super, super, super interesting with so many women involved in tech and AI, and they're just amazing. And during the AI Action Summit, I actively worked with them. They published numerous reports and data on precisely that question. And one of them, you actually mentioned it, I think it's out of 120 countries, only who have digital policies, only 23 of them mention gender. Is that it? Yeah. And so this is a key number. And when we talk about gender, it's not about gender in the data sets. We're talking of very basic stuff, like including women in tech, including women in AI. So there's work to do on this side. On the AI Action Summit, the objective was also to make gender equality of women's rights transversal and mainstreamed across everything we're doing, including states that joined the AI Action Summit. And to do so, Chloé Goupy mentioned an international statement that was published, and that exclusively and that is mainly focused on gender equality, women's rights, and artificial intelligence. This declaration is a first in the world, and it has been endorsed by 12 countries. So that's, in terms of international cooperation on gender equality, women, and AI, that's like a huge step. And finally, another huge step as well is the final declaration of the AI Summit, which was signed by 60 countries, a bit more than 60 countries. Final declaration that kind of draws kind of état des lieux, a state of the situation of what's going on with AI today, what are the opportunities and challenges in the world. And in that statement, there's gender equality, which was included. And actually, that was very, very last minute, because that has been, the object of big negotiations on why is it relevant to include, why I mentioned gender equality. So that's, it's 2 words in a text, but it's a huge win for international cooperation. And I'd say finally, when it comes to norms and standards and policies, etc., when it comes to AI and the inclusion of women, in France we have some laws about this, of course. They're not enough. We need more, of course. On the European scale, there's been the Artificial Intelligence Act, which implements standards for the European Union, and which also includes risks related to women, such as deepfake. There's more to be done, because in that law there's something missing regarding women. So it criminalizes deepfake pornography, but only when it's shared publicly and not shared to one person. So that, I'd say, is a loophole we need to work on the European scale. What's interesting with the EU perspective is that the AI Act and the Digital Services Act, which is European law to regulate big tech digital companies, are the first laws that are transnational and binding. Actually, when we look at the regulation of tech companies, states are unfortunately weak when it comes to companies. In the case of France, just, I think, 4 years ago, there's been data that was published saying that Facebook only responded to 60% of France's requests to Meta. For example, when it comes to judicial, judicial enquêtes, investigations, and they needed data because there's been online attacks, or they only responded in 60%. When it comes to Telegram, and Telegram was mentioned in the yesterday discussions, it's 0, right? And recently that led for Pavel Durov, the founder of Telegram, to be in jail in France, because what are you doing? You need to respond to, states. So we see that states are weak, unfortunately, but when they come together, then there's a fair arms wrestling. And so that's why we need transnational cooperation in the EU, but also beyond. On the international scale, there's been United Nations resolutions, to which many countries have adopted. And actually, when I was working at the French ministry, I drafted and negotiated the first international United Nations resolution on violence against women and girls in the digital environment, which was adopted in November last year. Recently again, there's been the Global Digital Compact, which is a huge framework adopted by all states of the United Nations on human rights in the digital space, including journalism in the digital space, protecting human rights defenders, regulating digital platforms, but also the creation and promoting digital public infrastructure, among more. And this is like key milestones. And what we've seen in recent months is that there has never been as many resolutions and international texts on digital, including on the human rights perspective. But on the international scale, as we know, it's non-binding. Yep. So there's a lot that is happening, a lot of opportunities, but still challenges that are remaining.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this really complete answer, Shanley, and there is a lot to share, as you can see. And there is some hope too, and this contradiction between, on one side, this proliferation of content and just the impression that nothing is moderated, nothing is done, basically. And we are kind of like under this movement. And at the same time, there is action. There is a lot of evolution on the legal frame, but also the NGO action, such as yours, but others. So thank you so much for this compliment. Yes, I think there are more questions. And here, Asil.
Sorry. Hello, thank you so much for this very interesting conversation. My name is Asil Tabara. I've been working with an international news agency for a very long time, so like my generation is a bit wary of AI maybe. I have a question for you ladies of Siren. You mentioned in the Dalil program that it's possible to analyze an article. Is it like gender sensitive? I mean, would it say you don't have enough women represented in this article, or you're not giving the voice enough to women? Thank you.
You know, that's a very good question. I don't believe currently, but it's easy to fix. I will, when I go back tomorrow, I will make sure to point that to the team. I don't believe specifically we mention gender sensitivity in the way we analyze. But I might be mistaken, but I don't have it in mind directly, but...
Can I just to add to that, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Asil, you can hear me now? It's a really good question, and I've been thinking about it since we've been sitting here, not directly in how we do it in the existing tools, but that would be great to have Shanley come and talk to the team, because Lucie's been kind of talking about it as we go, that we're interested to hear what other tools there are available, but there's also an opportunity for us to speak with Shanley and see, you know, how can Dalil have support this space. Okay. And just to add to that before, it's also interesting if you guys try Dalil and you have feedback on Dalil, to let us know, because, you know, Dalil's growing, it's donor funded. If there are recommendations that would make it better for many, maybe you can pass them on to AHJ, or you can let us know. But there is, it's evolving. It has to evolve.
We're constantly working on it. So
it's, definitely, I just wanted to say there are some tools, like the Women in News program has developed a tool, and we are all using it to check our articles. I mean, we try to balance the articles when we talk to people, whether people on the street or analysts. We try to put like a balance between men and women, and then they check the content of every news agency or media and say how much it is going towards gender balance. So I can...
Asil, you have to come into BDD. I think that's going to be the other thing.
Is there any... Thank you very much.
I believe they had a...
This table has...
I don't know who is taking care of the mic. Thank you. I think there are several ones. I don't know if we can take all of them, but okay, yes, of course. Wow, where is it? Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Nazan Bajikhani, Senior Advisor to Kurdistan Region's President on Higher Education and Gender, and it happens that I'm also teaching sexual and gender-based violence in conflict zones, focusing on ethical and methodological principles at Sciences Po. Thank you very much for sharing your brilliant insights, which generate some hope. I'm a bit skeptical. I've been reading Yuval Harari, Nexus, and I mean, as you know, he talks about the AI not only as a tool, but as an agent which dominates us, which thinks, decides, and acts So human beings are no longer decision makers. And also he predicts huge dangers like, for example, generating bomb designs and even more powerful than nuclear bombs, which can be controlled by human beings, but AI cannot be controlled by human beings. So how can a holistic approach, integrating both legal and ethical approach, transnational, intersectional, also multidisciplinary, especially in academia and also in journalism, how do you think that can challenge these predicted dangers that Harari talks about? Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're going to take maybe just another last question, and we'll answer everything together. Sorry, because we're going to have to close, but we're going to answer that. But yeah, I think, yeah, the danger is the human behind first. Just another question. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for everything you're sharing. There's a lot of information and knowledge. I have a question. I always ask it. Why always a lot of women and girls using AI to talk about their relationship, their romantic relationship, and then there's a lot of celebrity people support this kind of relationship or this kind of talk or this kind of chat with AI, and when we suggest as a journalist to talk about this kind of I think it's issues, not just like a conversations. If they not give us the agreement to talk about this kind of topic in a report or anything else. I don't know why, but I always find this kind of rejected to talk about this kind of relationship with AI. Thank you so much. My question is for Jessica. Thank you so much.
Okay, so maybe
just to make sure I understand, you're a freelance journalist, and you mean the publishers don't like this topic? Okay.
Okay, we can answer maybe this first question, Jessica, and then it's up to you for answering the second.
Yeah.
No, sorry, we have to answer that first. Go ahead, Jessica.
Okay. Yes, I believe that perhaps it's for those who are not following a lot, the idea you have might be too early to talk about. I'm sure in the coming years, this is going to be more of an interesting topic, because there are people will see that there are these kinds of attachment to AI. Already, there are, for example, ChatGPT. There are people who, when they are lonely, talk to ChatGPT for a conversation and feel they are friendly. So it's not far-fetched to think that some people will feel that they are in love with the AI with time. And there are dating applications today that everyone wants to incorporate AI in their application, including dating application to when someone wants to have a romantic conversation, have AI. So the topic you chose is very real. And I'm sure at some point more people will be talking about it, and then they will accept your angle about it.
And who would like to answer the question, the second question?
Together. Hello.
Go ahead.
It's obviously a very timely and philosophical question, and we also just had part of this conversation yesterday, and it's coming up constantly. Obviously, this author also lives in a country that is currently using AI in that way, so it's not far-fetched for him to be writing about this. So will AI replace humans, human intelligence? I think at this stage, it's not like, and I'd love to hear what Jessica says as well, we talked about this yesterday. I personally don't think so. I think that humans are too curious. I think that our intelligence will continue to grow. I think that, we've always had technology come in, and technology replaces. We've had steam engines, we've had computers, we've had calculators, we've constantly had tools come in, and Yet still we've delved deeper, and my personal, and Jessica can answer this more from the space that she's in, but my opinion is that we'll continue to explore with this tool. And the way that AI is being designed now, and we just had this conversation this morning over breakfast, the way that we spoke about humans when we had the industrialization era, we started bringing in those types of words. So we said that, for example, when I'm angry, I'm letting off steam. We compared ourselves to the steam engine. Now the way that AI it aggregates, analyzes, and predicts is how we imagine, and Jessica's done a lot of research on this in this space, that's how we understand the brain to work. So, you know, I think we're constantly comparing technology to humans, knowingly or unknowingly, so I personally don't think that it will replace, but I think it will change the role that we have. I think we will be doing different things. We'll be using hopefully my dream, and I've talked about a lot of this with a lot of people, is that we will have more time. But that never happens with any industrial revolution. There's just always more expectation on us to be faster, to have more power, to be more efficient. So it would be great if that's something we could do. I don't know if that completely answered your question. I think it's a long discussion, you know?
And destroying humanity, alien intelligence destroying humanity.
And arguably so that is happening, you know? That is happening in this country. Yeah. And like, but it will always be, you know, I think I'd love to have this as a longer conversation. Jessica, maybe you also want to jump in on this?
Yeah, like, and we're going to have to go.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, I don't know, I don't think we can take more
if you
question,
want,
but you know,
we're available after.
Yeah, exactly. We'll have like more time during. I'm sorry because we have been a bit late now, but that just shows us how we need to keep sharing actually and exchanging about this really important subject, AI, women, and media. We also can see like the tremendous needs of being aware, share the information, being trained. I mean. That's what we're doing today, but we just need that there is more room for that. The mechanism of protection in general, like really practical advice, and thank you so much again for this, and tools, but we also need regulation on a really highest level. But I think we also need more other women like you three actually in the decision making, in the AI sector in general, to shape the whole architecture probably differently too. So thank you so much.